The fluorescent lights of the packaging design studio flickered as Lily Thompson slammed her portfolio onto the conference table, watching her team's latest concept get shredded by yet another focus group who loved everything their competitor was doing better. 3 years she had poured into building her family's sustainable packaging company, and 3 years she had watched Vaughn Industries dominate every market they tried to enter. Her assistant poked his head through the door. "The Morrison account just called. They're going with Vaughn." Lily pressed her fingers against her temples. Morrison was supposed to be their breakthrough, the client that would finally put Thompson packaging on the map. Her father had built this company from nothing 40 years ago, and now it was her responsibility to save it from irrelevance. Or worse, bankruptcy. "Schedule a meeting with the design team for tomorrow morning," she said, her voice tight. "We need to completely reimagine our approach." That evening, Lily found herself at the Gatsby Room, an upscale bar in downtown Manhattan that she normally avoided because of the price of a single cocktail. But her best friend Maya had insisted, claiming Lily needed to stop living and breathing work for just one night. The marble floors and crystal chandeliers felt like a different world from her cramped office with its outdated computers and coffee-stained carpet. "You look like someone just killed your puppy," Maya said, sliding a martini across the bar toward her. Morrison chose Vaughn. Lily took a long sip, savoring the burn. "That's the 4th major account this quarter. Stop thinking about work. Look around. There are actual human beings here. Some of them are even attractive." Maya gestured around the crowded bar with an exaggerated sweep of her arm. Lily was about to argue when someone bumped into her from behind, sending her martini splashing across the bar. She spun around, ready to unleash her frustration, and found herself looking up at a man who seemed to have walked straight out of a cologne advertisement. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes the color of aged whiskey, and a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice deep and genuinely apologetic. He signaled the bartender immediately. "Please let me buy you another, and one for your friend." "It's fine," Lily started to say, but Maya was already accepting. "We'll have 2 more of what she was drinking," Maya said cheerfully. "I'm Maya and this is Lily." The man smiled and Lily felt something shift in her chest. Fletcher Lawrence. The name meant nothing to her, which was a relief. She was tired of networking, of every conversation being about business and competition and market share. For once, she just wanted to be a normal woman having a drink with a handsome stranger. "So what do you do, Fletcher Lawrence?" Meyer asked, and Lily wanted to kick her under the bar. "I work in manufacturing," he said vaguely. "It's boring. What about you too?" Lily found herself relaxing. "Packaging design, also boring. I doubt that." Fletcher's eyes were on her now, intense and focused in a way that made her skin warm. "I bet you could make anything interesting." They talked for an hour, then 2. Meyer eventually excused herself with a knowing look, leaving Lily alone with Fletcher at a small table in the corner. He asked questions like he actually cared about the answers, leaning forward when she spoke, laughing at her terrible jokes about the politics of cardboard versus recycled materials. When she mentioned her company by name, something flickered across his face too quickly for her to read. "Thompson Packaging," he repeated. "Your family's company, my father's legacy." She traced the rim of her glass. "I'm trying to keep it alive in a market that doesn't seem to want us anymore." "I'm sure that's not true. You'd be surprised. There's this other company that keeps swooping in and stealing every major account we pitch for, Vaughn Industries. They're like a plague." Fletcher went very still. "Vaughn Industries. You've heard of them. Everyone in manufacturing has heard of them." His voice had changed, become more careful. "They're successful. They're ruthless." Lily heard the bitterness in her own voice and tried to soften it. "Sorry, I shouldn't be talking about work. This was supposed to be my night off." Fletcher reached across the table and took her hand. The touch sent electricity up her arm. "What if we both agreed not to talk about work for the rest of the night? Deal?" They left the bar together an hour later, walking through the cool Manhattan evening with no particular destination in mind. Fletcher told her about growing up in Boston, about his mother who had passed away when he was 19, about learning to sail on Cape Cod. Lily shared stories about her chaotic family dinners, her younger brother who wanted to be a musician, her father's stubborn insistence on doing things the old way even when the old way was clearly not working anymore. At midnight, standing on a corner in Soho with traffic lights painting colors across the wet pavement, Fletcher kissed her. It was gentle and searching and absolutely perfect, and when they pulled apart, Lily was breathless. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Yes." She didn't even hesitate. They exchanged numbers, and Fletcher hailed her a cab. As she rode home to her tiny apartment in Queens, Lily caught herself smiling at her reflection in the window. For the first time in months, work was the last thing on her mind. Over the next 3 weeks, Lily fell into a pattern that felt like living in two different worlds. During the day, she fought desperately to save her company, pitching to clients and redesigning portfolios and watching Vaughn Industries continue their domination of the market. At night, she met Fletcher for dinners at quiet restaurants, long walks through Central Park, late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. He was unlike anyone she had ever dated. Confident without being arrogant, successful but humble about it, genuinely interested in her thoughts and dreams. He asked about her company but never pried when she kept the details vague. She still knew almost nothing about his specific job, just that he worked in manufacturing and traveled frequently. It felt refreshing not to date someone from her industry, someone who didn't know or care about market shares and profit margins. On their 5th date, they went to a small Italian restaurant in Brooklyn where the owner knew Fletcher by name. Over wine and pasta, Fletcher asked the question she had been dreading. "Why packaging? What made you choose this industry?" Lily set down her fork. "My dad used to bring me to the factory when I was a kid. I loved watching the machines work, seeing raw materials transform into something useful. He would tell me that packaging was underrated, that good design could make or break a product. When I was 8, I designed my first box. It was terrible, just crayon drawings of flowers, but he had the factory make a prototype, kept it on his desk for years." Fletcher's expression was soft, almost sad. "He must be proud of you." "I'm not sure proud is the right word. Grateful, maybe. I'm the only one of his kids who wanted to take over the company. My brother thinks the whole industry is dying, which is maybe true, but I can't just let it go. It's his legacy." "What about your legacy? What do you want?" No one had ever asked her that before. Lily opened her mouth and then closed it, unsure how to answer. "I want to build something that matters. Create designs that are beautiful and sustainable, prove that you can compete with the big corporations without losing your soul." Fletcher reached across the table and took her hand. "You will." "You don't know that. I know you. That's enough." They went back to his apartment that night, a stunning loft in Tribeca with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Lily tried not to think about what it must cost, about the growing evidence that Fletcher was far more successful than he had let on. When they made love, it was slow and intense and left her feeling raw and exposed in the best possible way. Afterward, lying tangled in his expensive sheets, Fletcher traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I need to tell you something." Lily's stomach clenched. Here it came. He was married. He was moving to another country. He was actually a serial killer. "Okay. I haven't been completely honest with you about my work. You're not in manufacturing. I am, but I'm not just an employee. I own the company." Lily sat up, pulling the sheet around her. "Which company?" Fletcher met her eyes and she saw resignation there. "Vaughn Industries." The words hit her like a physical blow. For a moment she couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Fletcher Lawrence. FL. The same initials that appeared on all the contracts that had stolen her clients, the same signature at the bottom of the letter that had poached her best designer last month. "You're Fletcher Vaughn." Her voice sounded hollow. My full name is Fletcher Lawrence Vaughn. I go by Lawrence in business, Fletcher with friends. I should have told you sooner, but I didn't know how. And then the more time that passed, the harder it became. Lily was already out of bed, gathering her clothes. You lied to me. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing. She yanked on her jeans, her hands shaking. You knew who I was, you knew about my company. Was this all just some game to you? Get close to the competition, find out their weaknesses. Fletcher stood, pulling on his pants. No, God no, Lily, that night at the bar, I had no idea who you were. When you said your name, I recognized it, but by then I was already interested in you, not your company, you. I don't believe you. You're the reason Morrison chose Vaughn. Lily froze with her shirt halfway on. What? After we met, I looked into Thompson packaging more closely. Your designs are good, really good, better than ours in a lot of ways, but Morrison chose us because we could offer a lower price point. That's it. Not because you weren't talented enough, but because we have the infrastructure to manufacture at scale. And you're telling me this to make me feel better. I'm telling you because it's the truth. Fletcher moved closer, but didn't touch her. I kept my identity secret because I liked being just Fletcher with you, not the CEO, not the competition, just a man having dinner with an incredible woman. I was selfish, and I'm sorry. Lily finished dressing and grabbed her purse. I need to go. Let me drive you. No. She was already heading for the door. Don't call me, don't text me, just leave me alone. She heard him call her name as she left, but she didn't turn around. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Outside, the city was still awake, taxis streaming past, people laughing on their way to late-night clubs. Lily walked for blocks before finally hailing a cab, and even then she couldn't cry. She felt too numb, too betrayed. At home, she poured herself a glass of wine and stared at her phone. Ma called twice, but Lily didn't answer. Eventually, she went to her laptop and searched for Fletcher Lawrence Vaughn. The results were overwhelming. Forbes articles about his innovative manufacturing techniques. Business journals praising his sustainable practices. Photos of him at charity galas, always alone. He was 32, had inherited Vaughn Industries from his father at 25, had tripled the company's revenue in 7 years. He was worth an estimated $200 million, and he had been dating her. Why? Because he felt sorry for her struggling company. Because it amused him to slum it with the competition. The thought made her feel sick. She avoided the Gatsby room after that, threw herself even harder into work. Her father noticed the change, asked if something was wrong, but Lily brushed him off. How could she explain that she had fallen for the one man she should have stayed away from? Fletcher respected her request not to contact her, which somehow made it worse. She caught herself checking her phone obsessively, disappointed and relieved in equal measure when there were no messages. Maya tried to make her talk about it, but Lily refused. What was there to say? It had been a mistake, a beautiful, stupid mistake, and now it was over. 3 weeks after the revelation, Lily was working late at the office when her father knocked on her door. There's someone here to see you. Tell them I'm busy. Lily. His voice was strange. I think you need to take this meeting. She followed him to the conference room and felt her heart stop. Fletcher was standing by the window, wearing a dark suit and looking every inch the successful CEO he was. But his eyes were tired, and when he saw her, his expression was raw with something that looked like hope and fear. What are you doing here? She asked, not moving from the doorway. I have a business proposition. Your father agreed to hear me out. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. Lily, please. Fletcher gestured to the table where several folders were laid out. Just listen. If you still want me to leave after, I will. Against her better judgment, she sat. Her father took the seat beside her, watching Fletcher with cautious curiosity. Fletcher remained standing like he was too agitated to sit. Vaughn Industries wants to acquire Thompson Packaging. Lily laughed, the sound bitter. Absolutely not. Let me finish. Not a hostile takeover. A partnership. You would maintain creative control over all designs. Your father would stay on as a senior advisor. You would become vice president of sustainable design, reporting directly to me with a guaranteed contract and a salary that I think you'll find more than fair." He slid a folder toward her. Lily didn't open it. "Why would you do this?" "Because your company deserves to survive. Because your designs are brilliant and shouldn't be lost because you can't compete with our manufacturing scale. Because merging our companies would create something neither of us could build alone." He paused. "And because I'm in love with you and I needed an excuse to see you again." Her father made a soft noise of surprise. Lily felt like the room was spinning. "You can't just buy my company because you have feelings for me." "I'm not. This is a sound business decision. I had my team run the numbers. A merger makes financial sense for both of us. The feelings are just the reason I'm willing to give up controlling interest." Lily finally looked at the folder. The numbers were staggering. The salary alone was triple what she currently made, and according to the contract, she would have final approval on all design decisions. Her team would be absorbed into Vaughn, not fired. Her father would receive a generous consulting fee and could retire comfortably. "This is too much," she said quietly. "It's what you're worth." Her father cleared his throat. "Lily, I think we should discuss this as a family. Mr. Vaughn, would you excuse us?" Fletcher nodded and left the conference room. As soon as the door closed, her father turned to her. "What's going on between you two?" "Nothing, not anymore." Lily rubbed her face. "We dated for a few weeks. I didn't know who he was. When I found out, I ended it." "Do you have feelings for him?" The question was so direct that Lily couldn't dodge it. "Yes. Does he have feelings for you?" "He says he does." Her father leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I've spent 3 hours with that young man today before you arrived. He walked me through his business plan, showed me his factories, explained his vision for the merger. Lily, he wasn't pitching me to acquire a failing company. He was asking for my blessing to work with my daughter. Dad, you can't possibly think this is a good idea." "I think it's the best offer we're going to get. I also think that man is genuinely in love with you, which complicates things considerably." He smiled. "But maybe complications aren't always bad." They talked for another hour, going through every detail of the contract. Finally, her father stood and stretched. "I'm going home. Your mother will be wondering where I am. You should talk to him, Lily. Really talk to him." After he left, Lily sat alone in the conference room, staring at the contract. Everything she had been fighting for was right there, laid out in black and white. Job security for her team, a future for her father's legacy. Resources to create the sustainable designs she had always dreamed of. All she had to do was sign and work with Fletcher every day. See him in meetings, collaborate on projects, pretend her heart didn't ache every time she looked at him. She found him in the lobby staring at his phone. When he saw her, he stood immediately. "What did you decide?" "I have questions." "Okay." "Why didn't you tell me who you were that first night?" Fletcher exhaled slowly. "Because for the first time in 7 years, someone was looking at me like I was just a person. Not a CEO, not a potential business connection, just Fletcher. It felt incredible. And selfish. I knew I should tell you, but I kept putting it off because I didn't want it to end. You made me feel like an idiot. I know, I'm sorry. If I could go back and do it differently, I would tell you everything the moment you mentioned your company." He stepped closer. "But I can't change what happened. All I can do is be honest now. I love you, Lily. I love your passion and your creativity and the way you talk about design like it's art. I love that you fight for what matters even when it's hard. I love you, and I want a chance to prove that I'm worthy of you." Lily felt tears prick her eyes. "This merger, if I say yes to the business deal, that doesn't mean I'm saying yes to us. I know. I need time to trust you again. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." She made herself meet his eyes. "I love you too." "That's why this hurts so much." Fletcher's expression cracked, revealing the vulnerability underneath his polished exterior. "I know. I'm so sorry." They stood there in the empty lobby, the city glittering through the windows behind them, and Lily felt something shift. Maybe they couldn't go back to those perfect early weeks when everything was simple. But maybe they could build something better, something real and complicated and worth fighting for. "I'll sign the contract," she said finally, "but we keep things professional until I'm ready. Can you do that?" "Yes, and you have to promise no more secrets, no more half-truths. If we're going to work together, I need complete honesty, I promise." Lily held out her hand, formal and businesslike. Fletcher looked at it for a moment, then took it, his grip warm and solid. "Deal." The merger took 3 months to finalize. During that time, Lily threw herself into learning every aspect of Vaughn Industries, from their manufacturing processes to their supply chains. Fletcher was professional and respectful, keeping his distance while still making his feelings clear in small ways. Coffee appearing on her desk in the morning, her favorite brand. Her team getting first pick of the new office spaces. Her ideas taking priority in meetings, even when they challenged his vision. Her father signed off on the deal with a knowing smile, accepting his consulting position and immediately starting to share decades of industry knowledge with Fletcher's engineers. Her team transitioned smoothly, excited by the resources now available to them. Lily found herself actually enjoying the work, collaborating with people who understood and appreciated her vision, but she missed Fletcher. Missed the easy conversations, the late-night talks, the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in the room. She caught him watching her sometimes during meetings, his expression carefully neutral, and had to look away before she did something stupid like forgive him too easily. It was Maya who finally forced the issue. "You're miserable," she said bluntly over lunch one Saturday. "You love him, he loves you, you're working at the same company. What exactly are you waiting for? I need to be sure this is real, that he didn't just pursue me because of the business." "Lily, he gave you control of the design division. He pays you more than his other VPs. He restructured his entire company to make room for yours. At what point does his commitment become obvious?" Lily pushed her salad around her plate. "What if it doesn't work? What if we try again and it falls apart? I'll have to see him every day. And if it does work, if you miss your chance at something real because you're too scared to take the risk." That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Fletcher, about the way he had respected her boundaries even when it clearly killed him. About the business deal that benefited her more than him. About the look in his eyes when he had said he loved her. Monday morning, she walked into his office without knocking. Fletcher looked up from his computer, surprise flashing across his face. "Lily, is everything okay? Have dinner with me tonight, not as colleagues, as us." His expression transformed, hope and joy breaking through the professional mask. "Yes, absolutely yes." They went to the same Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, sitting at the same table they had occupied months earlier. But everything felt different now. Heavier. More real. Fletcher was nervous, she realized, watching him fidget with his wine glass. "I've been thinking about what to say to you for 3 months, he admitted. "And now I can't remember any of it." Lily smiled despite herself. "Start with the truth. Why did you really want to merge the companies?" "Because watching you struggle was killing me. You're so talented, and you were being crushed by circumstances beyond your control. I knew I could help, but you would never accept help from me unless it was wrapped in a business deal, so I made it a business deal." He met her eyes. "And yes, part of me hoped it would give me a chance to prove myself to you, to show you that I'm serious about this, about us. It's going to be complicated, dating our boss, you're a VP, technically we're equals. Fletcher, you own the company, so we'll make it work. HR paperwork, clear boundaries, complete transparency, whatever you need to feel comfortable." He reached across the table, palm up, an invitation. "I love you, Lily. I want to build a life with you. The company is just the beginning." She took his hand, feeling the familiar spark of electricity. "I love you too, even though you're infuriating and you stole all my clients. I'll let you steal some back if it makes you feel better. That's not how business works. I'm willing to learn." They laughed, and it felt like breathing after being underwater. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of easy conversation and lingering touches. When Fletcher drove her home, he walked her to her door like it was a first date. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, and the fact that he still asked permission made her heart swell. You better. The kiss was everything she remembered and more. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Fletcher rested his forehead against hers. I missed you so much. I missed you too. Things moved quickly after that. They told HR about their relationship, signed the appropriate disclosure forms, and established clear rules about separating work and personal life. Most of those rules were broken within a week, usually by Lily stealing kisses in his office when no one was looking, but they tried their best. The company thrived. Lily's designs, backed by Fletcher's manufacturing capabilities, started winning major accounts. Within 6 months, they had secured contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies. Her father beamed with pride at every quarterly meeting. Her team expanded from 5 to 20, then 40. Fletcher stepped back from design decisions, trusting her completely and focused on the business side of operations. At home, they learned each other's rhythms. Lily discovered that Fletcher was terrible at cooking but made incredible coffee. Fletcher learned that Lily needed silence in the morning and conversation at night. They argued sometimes, passionate debates about business strategy and design philosophy that always ended with them remembering why they worked so well together. They challenged each other, pushed each other, made each other better. A year after the merger was finalized, Fletcher took Lily back to Cape Cod to the beach house where he had learned to sail as a child. They walked along the shore at sunset, and he told her stories about his mother, about the dreams she had for him that he was finally allowing himself to pursue. She would have loved you, he said, squeezing her hand. She always said I needed someone who would challenge me, not just agree with everything I said. I definitely challenge you. That's one of the things I love most about you. He stopped walking and turned to face her, the ocean crashing behind him. I have something to ask you. Lily's heart started racing as Fletcher reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. We've done everything backwards. Merged companies before we finished our first fight, became business partners before we were really ready, but I don't want to wait anymore. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring with a central diamond surrounded by smaller stones. Lily Thompson, will you marry me? She didn't hesitate. Yes. The ring fit perfectly, catching the last rays of sunlight. Fletcher picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing like idiots. They called their families from the beach house, Maya screaming so loudly that Fletcher held the phone away from his ear. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at a vineyard upstate. Lily's father walked her down the aisle, tears streaming down his face. Fletcher's best man gave a speech about how he had never seen his friend so happy. Maya caught the bouquet and immediately tried to give it back, claiming she wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. During their vows, Fletcher promised to always be honest, to support her dreams, to respect her independence. Lily promised to challenge him, to forgive his mistakes, to build a life that honored both their ambitions. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the kiss that followed felt like coming home. They honeymooned in Italy, eating their way through Tuscany and making love in beds older than their company. They talked about the future, about expanding into European markets, about maybe starting a family someday. Everything felt possible. 2 years after the wedding, Lily gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. They named them after Fletcher's mother and Lily's father, honoring the legacies that had shaped them. Fletcher was an incredible father, patient and playful and completely devoted. Lily watched him reading bedtime stories in silly voices and felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. The company continued to grow, but they made sure to maintain balance. Family dinners every Sunday, date nights twice a month. Annual trips to Cape Cod where the twins learned to sail just like their father had. Lily's designs won industry awards. Fletcher was named one of the most innovative CEOs under 40, but none of that mattered as much as the life they had built together. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they went back to the Gatsby Room, the bar where they had first met. It had been renovated since then, the crystal chandeliers replaced with modern lighting, but the bar was the same. They sat at the same stools where Fletcher had bought her that first replacement martini. "Do you ever regret it?" Lily asked, leaning into his shoulder. "Taking a chance on me," Fletcher kissed the top of her head. "Not for a single second. You're the best decision I ever made. Even though I was the competition, especially because you were the competition, you made me better. We made each other better." Lily thought about that night all those years ago, how angry she had been at losing another account to Vaughn Industries. How she had gone to the bar just to forget about work for one night. How a spilled drink had changed everything. If someone had told her then that she would end up married to the owner of her rival company, she would have laughed. But life was funny that way. The best things often came from the most unexpected places. The forbidden love she had been so afraid of had turned out to be worth everything. Her father's company had not only survived but thrived. Her designs were changing the industry. And she had found a partner who understood her ambitions, supported her dreams, and loved her with the kind of intensity that made every day an adventure. "What are you thinking about?" Fletcher asked, studying her face. "How lucky I am, how perfect this all turned out." Perfect is a strong word. "We've had our struggles. Perfect doesn't mean easy, it means right." She kissed him, tasting wine and possibility. "This is right." They stayed at the bar until midnight, talking and laughing and occasionally getting lost in kisses that made the bartender politely clear his throat. When they finally headed home to relieve the babysitter, Lily held Fletcher's hand and looked up at the Manhattan skyline, the same view that had been there the night they met. Some love stories were simple. Boy meets girl, they fall in love happily ever after. But the best love stories were complicated. They involved risk and sacrifice and the courage to forgive. They required two people willing to challenge each other, to grow together, to build something bigger than either could create alone. Lily Thompson and Fletcher Vaughn had started as rivals and become partners. They had faced betrayal and chosen trust. They had merged companies and lives and dreams into something neither had imagined possible. And every day, they chose each other all over again. That was what made it perfect. Not the lack of struggle, but the commitment to work through it. Not the fairy tale beginning, but the real, complicated, beautiful middle and the knowledge that whatever came next, they would face it together. As they drove home through the quiet streets, past the office where they had built an empire and toward the house where their children slept, Lily knew with absolute certainty that she would do it all again. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every terrifying leap of faith. Because all of it had led her here, to this man, to this life, to this love that was worth everything. And that was the truth she wanted to remember forever. That some risks were worth taking, some loves were worth fighting for. And sometimes, the person you thought was your enemy turned out to be your soulmate. You just had to be brave enough to let down your walls and let them in. Fletcher glanced over at her, smiling in the darkness of the car. "I love you. I love you too, always, always." It was a promise and a commitment and a declaration all rolled into one simple word. And as they pulled into their driveway, home and family and future waiting inside, Lily knew it was a promise she would keep for the rest of her life.